Well, like Josh, I'm going to be talking about a project that I worked on in my former position as Director of Education at the High Museum of Art, and I'm no longer there. So this is sort of a look back and a look at what's happening with this mobile app right now. I'm going to be looking at the mobile app ArtClix sort of through the lens of audience engagement and some of the lessons that have been learned now that this app has been in use for about 2 years at the High Museum of Art. Just a little quick background on the development of the app. The High Museum of Art is located in Atlanta, Georgia, in the American Southeast. The museum opened an expansion in 2005 that doubled the size of the facility, and then embarked on a multi-year partnership with the Louvre Museum that brought about 9 exhibitions to the High. Following the success of these exhibitions, a 2-year partnership with the Museum of Modern Art in New York was developed, and the museum leadership believed that modern and contemporary art, or the art of our time, along with MoMA's brand, would be appealing to young adults in Atlanta, and that these exhibitions provided an opportunity for developing this audience. So why young audiences? You know, I think many museums are focusing on young visitors right now. Of course, they're underrepresented in museums, so they provide a wonderful opportunity for potential audience growth. And of course, if we want to develop patrons and museum advocates for the future, this is an audience that it's important for us to bring to our institutions. The team began its work at the High by looking at some of the existing audience research about young adults. We were especially excited about Nina Simon's work and her book, The Participatory Museum, which resonated with some of our own experience working with young visitors. So just a few of the things that we thought about in terms of this audience. First of all, that they're connected and very social. They're constantly in touch via text, Facebook, or in Asia, Weibo. They expect to customize their experience, and they want choice. And I always like to think about the iTunes store and this phenomenon. You know, people aren't buying an entire album any longer, for the most part. They are buying specific songs that they want and then creating their own playlist. And so this kind of practice and this kind of idea was something that we thought about. They value things that are local, authentic, transparent. There's a lot of interest in doing things with grassroots arts organizations among young people. And then finally, they value jointly constructed knowledge. In other words, they want to participate in creating their experience, not have a passive experience where the museum as authority provides them with content. At the High, the museum really promotes a team-based institutional culture, and so we approached our Young Audience Initiative in that spirit and developed an integrated plan with interpretation, programs, and marketing and promotions, all as a part of the initiative. I'm going to focus on the interpretation piece, but I will come back at the end with programs and marketing. So the project began with a concept development brainstorm, as of course many projects do. We kicked off with this meeting, and we included the internal team, which was colleagues from education, curatorial, marketing, and design. We also invited experts in technology from museums and universities, which I've listed here, as well as some vendors to join us. These outside experts were especially important for us because the High does not have a dedicated interactive media staff. Many of our projects are what you might call sort of guest appearances with technology. So we needed some extra voices and expertise with us. Important goals or guiding principles were identified from the brainstorm meeting and then subsequent discussions. In addition to our charge, as I said, to engage young audiences, we identified a few other goals. One was to experiment with encouraging conversations about artwork between visitors and the High Museum staff, so to create some kind of dialogue between visitors and the museum. Another was to leverage the popular activity of taking photos with your cell phone and create an experience that allowed visitors to collect and share their photos of artwork. And then finally, we wanted to experiment a bit with making use of social media in the app. We did, as I'm indicating, decide to create an app, and we decided to work with Second Story Interactive Studios. And we agreed on several parameters as we began work on our mobile app. We decided to develop the app for iOS and the most popular Android phones. And we decided that visitors would use their own personal smartphones. In other words, the museum would not provide any equipment for visitors. So we intended the app to be used by people who had smartphones and they knew how to use them. No tutorials on how to use the app, no signage about how to use the app. Either you knew how to use apps or you didn't, was our expectation. We named the app ArtClix to play on the idea of taking photos, clicks, and we wanted a name that wasn't tied to a specific exhibition so that we could support reuse of the app. So I'll just walk you briefly through it. There are 3 ways to access the same information in the app. The slide on the portion on the left shows you what happens when you go into the app. If your phone has a camera, it will come up and tell you that you can take a photograph in order to get information, and that you can share it on social media, and then that there's a community area where you can discuss it. If you don't have a phone, or if you open the app at home, not in the museum, then you can get the scroll of all of the objects that are represented in the app. And then finally, and I guess this was a little bit of a safety net in our minds, we included a keypad that they could put in the number, and we provided a number on the labels, kind of like an audio guide. So here you see someone using the app in the gallery. The app actually uses a photo recognition software so that the photograph the app is actually reading the photograph of the artwork. So the artwork is working like a QR code. And this is what the visitor sees. When they take their photograph, they're given the option to use it, and when they do, then they, and you see on the left the Matisse content there, that's their photograph that they're seeing. The app provides a short bit of text, and the text was written specifically for the app. It wasn't repurposed from the labels. It's intended to encourage the visitor to take a look at the artwork rather than being fact-based. If there was an audio stop for this piece, then they were able to click that play button and listen to the audio guide. And then if they wanted to, they could share the image through social media. And if they click the share button, they would get the screen on your left. They could type in a message if they wanted, and then they could share it by Twitter, Facebook, or email it. And this is just the profile that they would have to create the first time that they went into the share function. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about comments later, because I think that that's a thread that we've heard through all of our talks. But this is what the community section looks like. The photograph is there, and then whatever comment the visitor has included. And finally, just a little bit about the content management. This is the admin tool for the app. Very easy to use. Again, I said that we don't have an interactive media team at the High, so the education staff were the ones who were putting all of the content into the app. And through this admin tool, they could enter images, they could enter audio files, they could put in text. They can even monitor the comments that are in the app and remove anything that they might have to. That's never happened. There's never been any need to take anything off of the app. So as I said, we first launched the app in the fall of 2011 with the MoMA exhibitions, and since then we've used the app for about 6 different projects. And we've done everything from put the entire exhibition into the app so that every artwork is included, to also providing something that we've kind of called ArtClix Lite, where there were just a few selected works that were included in the app. So I want to talk now about a few of the lessons that have been learned, and again, I think we'll hear some common learnings with some of the other papers. First of all, just a little bit about the technical side. The photo recognition software was something quite new, and so creating the videos that are put into the app for the photo recognition was somewhat complicated at first. And over time, the company eDay that created the software, which is called TinEye, they've tweaked it a bit and improved it, and of course the staff has gotten very good at doing these videos. But there are still challenges when they're in with 3D objects and also in a reflective light situation. I mentioned that we included the keypad, and here you see on the left an example of one of the labels with the audio tour numbers and the app number, and I'm sure you can immediately think, oh, this looks pretty confusing. And it was confusing for visitors. It created a situation where a lot of people who were doing the audio guide wondered what they were missing with the app, and they weren't sure which number to put in. And so currently the museum is not using the keypad anymore, so there are no numbers for the app. They also decided that they would use the app when they don't have an audio tour. So either there's the audio tour for the big exhibitions that the museum does, or they're using the app for other exhibitions where they want to use more interpretation, but they don't have the resources for the audio tour. They've also decided to only use the app when they can include all of the objects from an exhibition in the app, so that there's not that confusion of people going up and taking photographs and the work's not in the app. So it's kind of an all or nothing approach right now. All right, so here are the comments. So you can see, remember one of the goals that we had was to see if we could create dialogue with the visitor. Well, notice no dialogue. So people are posting comments, they have things they want to say, but they don't want to talk with each other in the app. They also, you can see on the lower left, a question that was posted by the staff, which one is your favorite? A little comment about Picasso work, and then which one is your favorite? No responses to that either. So the visitor is not really expecting to have that kind of dialogue with the staff through an app like this. Now, one thing that we did was to go through and look at the kinds of comments that we were getting and to analyze them in terms of the content of the comments, so to speak. And let me get my thing here. Sorry, we found that there were 4 different kinds of comments that we found. First of all, simple responses, things like cool or I like this one. Second, personal or irrelevant responses, things like, hey girls, happy 21st birthday, or wish you were here. And then the kind of comments that as a museum educator, I'm really wanting to see, like reflections on some aspect of the painting. I like the feel of this piece. I wonder if that's how we saw women. Or comments about the museum experience itself. Really love the Matisse portion of the exhibit. Or this is a great museum. Or we love this app, that kind of thing. And when we broke down these different types of responses, you can see that the large, over half of the comments came under the simple response category. Next were the personal or irrelevant, which were probably comments that were attached to people sending the postcard to a friend. And then the categories that we called experience or reflection was really only about 15 to 20% of the comments. And then finally, metrics. We did want to keep track. In the first exhibition that we used ArtClix, we did analyze the information about how many downloads we'd had. And we had about 15,000 visitors who downloaded ArtClix, which was about 4% of our overall attendance. But when we looked at the number within our overall attendance that probably had smartphones based on smartphone usage at that time, the number of users rose to about 17%. Whoop. Okay. So now I'm talking with staff about their thoughts on ArtClix as a tool for young audiences. We're really saying that it's young audiences plus who are using the app. Of course, more visitors now have smartphones, so there's a larger potential audience to use the app. We do notice that young visitors are still using the camera more than older visitors who tend to use the scrolling list of objects. The audio seems to be popular with all ages. We get a lot of good comments back on including audio in the app. And when the text is looking prompts or artist quotes, those kinds of things, that kind of content seems to be more appealing rather than a lot of factual information. Again, I just wanted to mention that the app was part of this larger young audience initiative, which included programs and promotion. And on the left, you see one of our flagship young audience programs that was developed called Culture Shock, which includes encounters with artists, music, different activities, DIY art activities. So these big events for young audiences are also happening, as well as this interpretation tool. And our marketing department is providing promotion that has a new look and is really geared towards attracting younger people. So it's part of a kind of a holistic approach that many museums are practicing these days. Here's the Denver Art Museum. I just wanted to mention them here at the end because I think they're doing some wonderful work with young audiences, and they've published this great report which is available on their website, and I would encourage you to take a look at it to get a feel for all of the programming that they're doing. But specifically, I wanted to mention their mobile app, which is called Damn Scout, and here they're using QR codes to deliver content rather than the photo recognition. But over time, they have added some social media components to their app as well, so everybody's responding to visitors' desire to have that. And they also have a series of programs for younger people called Untitled, which have this same mix of music and artists and a very lively atmosphere for young audiences. So I wanted to just end with this quote from Denver, which I think really sums up nicely what a lot of us have been seeing in our work with young audiences. And that is that they originally thought that this audience was an age group, but we later realized that style, not age, was a better way to categorize the target audience. So we're finding that these materials and these experiences that we're creating for young people are actually appealing to a much broader audience, which I think is great news for all of us, and is helping us in our practice to make things more participatory for our visitors. Thank you.